Now, what is this? When you see this picture, what comes to your imagination? What institution? This is a symbol of the church. Now, do you think that this concept of a new world order has even infected the psychology of us as churchgoers? Yes, it has. Let's turn our Bibles to the book of Matthew. I know that we're going very quickly. Please pardon the rush. Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, we're going to read in verse number 13. Notice what the sacred volume says in Matthew chapter 5. We're going to read in verse number 13. The Bible says, ye are the salt of the what? You're the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith it all shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of what? Man, it says, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick. And it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is where? So is it a great duty and responsibility that we have as Christians, as the church of God, in order to be the light of this world? But do you think that the church is currently functioning in that capacity? No, it is not. Now, does anybody know who that man is? Man by the name of Joel Osteen. Now, this book is entitled, I what? I declare. Now, from a Bible standpoint, who does the Bible say is the only one that declares the end from the beginning? And this is a very popular phrase with many Christians in this generation. Oh, I declare it. I decree and declare it. But does the Bible say that we should be partaking in that type of language? Again, if there is anything that we ought to do is to merely agree with the dictum of God. But we ourselves do not have the power to decree or to declare anything. Notice the power of what? Now, somebody says, well, Brother Samuel, you're taking this out of context. This man is not saying that I am God. You know, it is amazing that when you actually do research on many of these megachurch pastors, many of these men and women are Freemasons. When you actually dig deep into much of their philosophy, it is nothing but occultism. Now, what is this? Who is this? Man by the name of T.D. Jakes, and it actually came out last year that this man was actively going to the Diddy parties. Let's turn in our Bibles to the book of Ephesians. Because honestly, when I take a look at some of this stuff, it is so flabbergasting that if it weren't for the grace of God, it would be nothing but despair. Ephesians chapter 6, notice what the Bible says. Ephesians chapter 6 in verse number 12, it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and what? It says, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of what? Against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, does the Bible even talk about so-called spiritual men that were doing occult things in secret? Does anybody remember a man by the name of Balaam? Now, was Balaam at one time a prophet of God? But did he die in that condition? No, he didn't. Balaam loved filthy lucre, and as a result of that, he was willing to be in a cozy liaison with the enemies of God. All right, we're going to skip past this. This man by the name of Creflo Dollar. Notice 8 steps to create the life you want. Now, does the Bible say that? Now, who is the one that governs and dictates our life? It is the God of heaven. One by the name of Joyce Meyer, conflict-free living. Now, does the Bible say that in this world, we're not going to have any conflict? It doesn't say that. Jesus said that in this world, you are going to have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. All right, this is a book by the name of Purpose-Driven Life. This is actually the most produced Christian, so-called Christian book in the history of modern publication. Now, do you think that this book teaches the gospel of Jesus Christ? No, it doesn't. Notice, this is a man by the name of Manly Palmer Hall, the occult writer of the 20th century. Notice what he says. The most dangerous form of black magic is the scientific perversion of occult power for the gratification of personal desire. Its less complex and more universal form is what? So if we are practicing selfishness, we are merely practicing black magic. You don't have to be drawing pentagrams on the ground in order to be a warlock or a witch. You just have to be selfish. All right, notice what he goes on to say. This says, though the demonism of the Middle Ages seems to have disappeared, there is abundant evidence that in many forms of modern thought, especially the so-called prosperity psychology or the prosperity gospel, willpower building metaphysics, and systems of high pressure salesmanship. So when we see all of these mega preachers teaching all of this prosperity gospel, it is nothing more than black magic. That's all it is. Now, when you see this picture, what comes to your imagination? This is a symbol of something called voodoo or voodoo. Anybody ever heard of voodoo? Yes, notice. Let's see what voodoo is. Voodoo is a religion originating in West Africa and practiced in the Caribbean, particularly Haiti, in the diaspora. It says its complex beliefs centered around connecting with spirits and ancestors through rituals like drumming, dancing, and what? And chanting. Voodoo or voodoo is a religion with deep roots in West Africa going on. It says spirits, voodoo practitioners believe in a multitude of spirits, both from the living and the unseen worlds, who interact with what? Now, are these really spirits or are they demons? These are demons. Ancestors are revered as powerful figures who can offer guidance and protection. Now, when Saul went to the witch of Endor, did he think that he was speaking to one of his ancestors? Now, who was he speaking to? He was speaking to the devil. This says drumming, dancing, and chanting. Notice, possess voodoo's origins and influence from blues to Britney. Every genre of music that you can possibly think of, from rock to rap, has its origins in voodoo. All of it. This says blissed out ecstatic union with our divine selves. This says, we're going to skip down. It says voodoo is a neo-African religion that evolved in the New World. This was the religion of many of the slaves. It says voodoo was brutally repressed. It says we owe our concepts of cool soul and rock and roll to it. Going past, it says the voodoo rite of possession by the god became the standard of American performance in rock and roll, from Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, James Brown, Janis Joplin, Tina Turner, and the list goes on. They let themselves be possessed not by any god they could name, but by the spirit they felt in the what? The spirit they felt in the music. Voodoo possession is not the hunky demon possession. It's a state of union with the divine achieved through what? So when persons partake in these forms of music, they're connecting with these demonic fallen spirits. Does that make sense? But I wonder if voodoo is even in the church. You think it's in the church? Well, let's see. Thomas A. Dorsey. Has anybody ever heard of a gentleman by the name of Thomas Dorsey? This is the father of modern gospel music. Notice. Thomas Dorsey, widely acknowledged as the father of gospel music, died Saturday. He was 93. A blues piano player in Chicago, Dorsey first wove together blues and jazz musical styles and the text of traditional spirituals and called the new sound what? Gospel. Now, again, just think about this. If blues and jazz come from voodoo and he was mixing it with Christian lyrics, what was he actually playing in the church? He was playing voodoo. Notice, some people consider that what? So many Christians during the time of Thomas Dorsey, when he was doing this, they thought it was sacrilegious because they knew that jazz and blues came from voodoo, and they thought that it was demonic that this man was mixing that with Christian lyrics. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Maverick City, whether it's contemporary Christian music, all of it has its origins in this reality of Thomas Dorsey. Notice this. This is from Shu Qing from the 6th century BC China. For changing people's manners and altering their customs, there is nothing better than what? Nothing better than music. So again, do you think that Satan is using these mechanisms in order to bring about the New World Order?